I, 47M, have been married to Sarah, 45F, for 22 years. We met in college through mutual friends and got married right after graduation. Sarah was my first and only serious relationship. She worked as a marketing executive while I built my career in software development. Our marriage was good, or at least I thought it was until last month when everything fell apart. We have 2 kids, Jenny, 20F, and Mike, 17M. Jenny is in her second year of college studying psychology, and Mike is a junior in high school. The problem started about 4 months ago when Sarah joined a new gym. She said she wanted to get in shape before turning 46. I supported her decision and even offered to join with her, but she said she preferred going alone to focus on herself. She started spending more time at the gym, sometimes going twice a day. I didn't question it because she seemed happier and more energetic. But then things started changing. She bought all new clothes, changed her hairstyle, and was constantly on her phone. When I walked into a room, she would quickly turn her phone screen off or switch apps. She started working late, saying her team had taken on a big project for a new client. Some nights she wouldn't come home until 9 or 10 p.m. I trusted her completely, so I didn't think much of it. I even made sure dinner was ready for her when she got home and took care of the kids' needs so she could focus on work. Our sex life practically disappeared. Every time I tried to initiate intimacy, she had an excuse: she was tired, had a headache, or had to wake up early. We went from being intimate 2 to 3 times a week to nothing for almost 3 months. Again, I didn't push the issue because I thought she was stressed about work. 3 weeks ago, on a Friday evening, she texted me saying she needed to discuss something important. I thought maybe she got the promotion she'd been hoping for, or wanted to talk about our upcoming summer vacation plans. The kids were both out, Jenny at her campus library and Mike at football practice. When Sarah came home, she wasn't alone. There was this guy with her, tall and muscular, probably in his late 30s. She introduced him as Derek, 39M. They sat down in our living room, the same room where we'd celebrated our 20th anniversary 2 years ago, and Sarah dropped the bomb. She was 3 months pregnant, and Derek was the father. She said they met at the gym 8 months ago and connected on a deep level. According to her, she hadn't been happy in our marriage for years but never had the courage to say anything. She claimed I was too focused on work and didn't understand her emotional needs. Derek just sat there with his smug look on his face, occasionally rubbing Sarah's back like he was comforting her. She said they had fallen in love and wanted to start a new life together. The late nights weren't because of work, she was with him. The gym visits weren't always for working out, they were meeting there and going to his place. I felt like I was in some bizarre nightmare. This was the woman who had nursed me back to health when I had pneumonia 3 years ago. The same woman who had cried tears of joy at Jenny's high school graduation. Now she was sitting in our home, telling me she was carrying another man's child. I told them both to leave immediately. That's when things got ugly. Derek stood up and started yelling that I couldn't kick Sarah out because she owned half the house. He said I needed to man up and accept that Sarah had found someone better. I stayed calm and told them I would be filing for divorce first thing Monday morning, and they needed to leave my house now. Derek got in my face, his chest puffed up like some wannabe tough guy. He said I'd better watch myself because he wouldn't let me mess with his woman and his baby. Something about his tone made me nervous, so I had already started recording everything on my phone, hiding it partially behind a couch cushion. I repeated that they needed to leave. That's when Derek pulled out a gun from his waistband. He pointed it directly at my chest and said if I tried to make things difficult for Sarah in the divorce, he would make sure I regretted it. He said he knew where I worked, where the kids went to school, and that accidents happen all the time. Sarah just stood there, not saying a word while this man threatened her husband of 22 years with a gun. She didn't try to stop him or act surprised that he had a weapon. She just watched with this blank expression on her face. After they left, I called the police immediately and showed them the recording. They arrested Derek that night for making criminal threats with a deadly weapon. Sarah was also arrested for being complicit in the threat. They were both released on bail the next day. The kids came home to find police cars outside our house. Jenny broke down crying when I told her what happened. Mike punched a hole in his bedroom wall and locked himself in there for 2 days, only coming out when I promised we would get through this together. My parents and Sarah's parents have been calling nonstop. Her parents think I'm being too harsh and should drop the charges because she's pregnant and stressed. They said Sarah told them I had been emotionally distant and she felt trapped in our marriage. My parents are furious and want me to go after everything in the divorce. I filed for divorce the next morning. My lawyer says the recording will help tremendously in both the criminal case and divorce proceedings. Sarah has been calling and texting constantly, saying she made a terrible mistake and that Derek manipulated her. She claims she didn't know he had a gun and would never want to hurt me. But the recording shows she didn't seem surprised or scared when he pulled out the weapon. I've blocked her number and told her to communicate only through our lawyers. The kids refuse to speak to her. Jenny says she can never forgive her mother for destroying our family. Mike is failing 2 classes and his football coach called to say he's been getting into fights at practice. 22 years of marriage gone because she couldn't keep her legs closed. I looked at our wedding photos last night, we were so young and happy. Now I have to face her in court next week for the threats case. I don't regret filing charges because nobody threatens me with a gun in my own house, especially not in front of my children's photos on the wall. Update 1. It's been 2 weeks since my last post. First, I want to thank everyone for their supportive comments and messages. You helped me stay strong when I felt like everything was falling apart. Now, let me tell you what's happened since then. The threat case hearing was last week. I arrived at the courthouse early with my lawyer. Sarah and Derek showed up together, both dressed like they were going to church. Sarah kept trying to catch my eye, but I focused on my phone. Their lawyer, this slick guy in an expensive suit, tried to paint me as a controlling, abusive husband who was threatening to leave Sarah homeless and penniless. He claimed Derek only showed the gun because he feared for Sarah's safety. But then my lawyer played the recording. You could hear everything clearly, their voices, Derek's threats about knowing where my kids went to school, and most importantly, Sarah's complete silence while her boyfriend threatened her husband with a gun. Their faces went white. The judge was visibly angry and set a trial date for next month. She also added a restraining order, requiring both of them to stay at least 500 feet away from me, my house, and my workplace. I thought that was going to be the biggest development, but I was wrong. Yesterday morning, someone knocked on my door. I opened it to find a woman in her mid-30s standing there with a thick folder in her hands. She introduced herself as Amy, 36F, Derek's wife. Yes, you read that right, Derek is married with 3 kids aged 12, 9, and 6. Amy found out about Sarah and the pregnancy when she saw Derek's arrest report in the local paper. She's been doing her own investigation since then, and what she discovered is shocking. She brought proof that Derek has done this before. 2 years ago, he got involved with a woman at his previous job, got her pregnant, and then disappeared when she was 7 months along. The woman had to move back in with her parents and raise the baby alone. But here's where it gets even worse. Amy showed me text messages between Derek and Sarah going back months. They weren't just having an affair, they were plotting. They had this whole scheme planned out to get the majority of my assets in the divorce. The messages showed they thought if they could provoke me into doing something violent or stupid, Sarah would get a better settlement. The gun threat wasn't some heat of the moment thing, it was premeditated. They discussed it in their texts. Derek wrote, "When we tell him, I'll bring my peace. If he gets aggressive, I'll scare him a little. That way, he'll know not to fight the divorce and you'll get everything." Sarah replied, "Perfect plan, baby. He's such a coward, he'll probably cry." I handed all this evidence to my lawyer and the DA's office. The DA is now considering adding conspiracy charges to the existing threats charge. When word got back to Sarah about the new evidence, she started calling me nonstop, crying and claiming she didn't know Derek was married. She said he manipulated her into the whole plan. But the text messages show otherwise. She knew everything about his wife and kids. She even joked about being the other woman and how Amy was too stupid to notice her husband's affair. Things got even more interesting when Jenny was looking for some old family photos in Sarah's drawer. She found a second phone, one I never knew about. There were messages on it going back almost a year. Sarah and Derek had been planning this for months before dropping the pregnancy bomb. They specifically waited until she was showing before telling me, thinking I wouldn't fight back as hard if there was a baby involved. The impact on our kids has been devastating. Mike still barely leaves his room except for school. He's failing 3 classes now, and his football coach called to say he's been sitting out practices, just watching from the bleachers. Jenny is angry all the time. She told Sarah in a text message that she never wants to see her again and that she's dead to her. The message Sarah sent back just said, "You'll understand when you're older and fall in love." Sarah's parents showed up at my house after I sent them copies of the text messages. They were horrified. Her father, who had been defending her actions and begging me to drop the charges, broke down crying in my living room. He kept saying he didn't raise his daughter to be this kind of person. They've stopped taking her calls too. My lawyer says with this new evidence, Sarah won't get much in the divorce. The conspiracy to threaten me and the premeditated nature of their plan will work against her in the property division. But honestly, I don't care about the money anymore. I just want her out of our lives. The woman in those text messages isn't the person I married. She's a stranger who spent months plotting to destroy me while sleeping in our bed and eating dinner with our family. Jenny asked me yesterday if I ever suspected anything. The truth is, I didn't. I trusted Sarah completely. Even when she was going to the gym twice a day, even when she was working late, even when she stopped wanting to be intimate, I never thought she would do this. 22 years of marriage, and I never once checked her phone or questioned her late nights. Now I know she was laughing about my trust with her lover, calling me a fool for believing in her. Update 2. It's been a month since my last update. The divorce proceedings started last week, and things have taken several unexpected turns. I need to share what's happened because it's almost unbelievable. The divorce hearing began with Sarah trying to play victim. She claimed Derek had manipulated and coerced her into participating in their scheme. Her lawyer presented a sob story about how she was a vulnerable woman trapped in an emotionally distant marriage, and Derek took advantage of her loneliness. She even brought in a colleague from work to testify about how she would cry in the break room about our supposedly troubled marriage. But her act fell apart completely after what happened at the criminal trial. Derek, facing serious jail time for the gun threat, decided to take a plea deal. The DA offered him 2 years probation and a restraining order if he would testify about their conspiracy. He took the deal, and what he revealed in court changed everything. During his plea hearing, Derek completely threw Sarah under the bus. He admitted that the entire scheme was her idea from the start. She had spotted him at the gym and recognized him from his social media as a successful real estate agent. She approached him, not the other way around. She knew he was married from the beginning because she had looked up his Facebook profile and seen pictures of his family. According to Derek, Sarah told him she was unhappy in her marriage and wanted to leave me, but she wanted to make sure she got the best possible settlement. She chose him specifically because he looked intimidating and had a concealed carry permit. The gun threat was her idea. She thought it would help prove I was abusive when I inevitably reacted violently to being threatened. But the biggest bombshell came when the paternity test results were presented in court. Sarah is definitely pregnant, but Derek isn't the father. The baby belongs to her personal trainer, a 25-year-old guy named Chad. Apparently, while she was plotting with Derek, she was also sleeping with Chad at the gym. When this revelation came out in court, Derek lost it completely. He started screaming that she had ruined his marriage for nothing. He thought she was going to divorce me, take half my assets, and then marry him. Finding out she was sleeping with someone else the entire time sent him into a rage. The bailiffs had to remove him from the courtroom. Chad showed up to testify after being subpoenaed. He had no idea Sarah was married. She told him she was divorced with 2 adult children who lived with their father. She even brought Jenny and Mike to the gym once and introduced them as her niece and nephew. Chad showed the court messages where Sarah had invited him to move in with her after she finalized her divorce from her abusive ex-husband. This revelation destroyed what little credibility Sarah had left. Her own lawyer looked disgusted. The judge called a recess, and when we returned, Sarah had a complete meltdown. She started crying about how everyone was against her and how she was just trying to find happiness. The judge was not impressed. Meanwhile, Sarah's professional life has imploded. Her company found out about the criminal charges and the conspiracy when a background check for a promotion flagged the court cases. They fired her immediately. Their ethics policy has zero tolerance for criminal behavior. She's been unable to find another job in marketing because the story has spread through our professional network. She's moved in with her sister because she can't afford an apartment. She keeps trying to contact the kids, sending long emails about how sorry she is and how she needs their support during her pregnancy. Jenny responded once, telling her that she hopes the baby grows up to betray her just like she betrayed us. Mike still won't even acknowledge her existence. The one positive development is that Mike has finally started talking again. His grades are still bad, but he's seeing a therapist twice a week and making progress. The therapist says his anger issues are normal given the circumstances, and we're working on healthy ways for him to express his feelings. The divorce proceedings are moving quickly now. The judge has seen all the evidence, the text messages planning the conspiracy, the paternity test results proving she lied about Derek being the father, and the testimony about her multiple affairs. My lawyer says we'll likely wrap everything up within a month. Sarah's sister called me yesterday to warn me that Sarah's not taking any of this well. She's been drinking heavily despite the pregnancy and talking about how everyone has abandoned her when she needs them most. I almost felt sorry for her until I remembered those text messages where she joked about using Derek's gun to scare me. Update 3. 6 months have passed since this nightmare began, and I can finally say it's over. The divorce was finalized last month. The judge awarded me the house and primary custody of Mike, Jenny as an adult, so custody wasn't an issue. Sarah got nothing except her personal belongings and her car. The judge cited her conspiracy with Derek and her multiple deceptions as the reason for the uneven split. Sarah's life has completely fallen apart. She lost the baby at 5 months due to complications. Her sister told me she had been drinking heavily throughout the pregnancy despite everyone's warnings. Chad, the personal trainer who was the actual father, wants nothing to do with her. When he learned about her lies and the conspiracy with Derek, he quit his job at the gym and moved to another city. Derek's wife Amy divorced him and got full custody of their kids. He moved to Arizona after losing his real estate license due to the criminal charges. Last I heard, he's working as a bartender and telling everyone who'll listen about how Sarah ruined his life. Sarah's downward spiral hit rock bottom last week. She showed up at our house at 2 a.m., completely drunk. She was screaming in the driveway about how she had lost everything because of one mistake. She kept saying she would do anything to fix things and come home. The neighbors called the police before I could. Since she violated the restraining order, she spent 2 days in jail. Her sister refused to bail her out, saying Sarah needed to face consequences for once in her life. The kids are doing better, finally. Jenny is back at college and seeing the campus counselor regularly. She's joined a support group for children of divorced parents and says it's helping her process everything. Mike's grades have improved to B's and C's, and he's back on the football team. His therapist says his anger issues are much better now that he's learned some coping mechanisms. Sarah's parents have been surprisingly supportive through all this. They've maintained a relationship with the kids while completely cutting contact with Sarah. Her mom comes over every Sunday to cook dinner for us, just like she used to when Sarah and I were first married. Her dad helped Mike fix the hole he punched in his bedroom wall and takes him fishing some weekends. I've started dating someone I met through a mutual friend. Lisa, 43F, is a high school teacher who went through her own divorce 3 years ago. We're taking things very slowly. The kids met her last month and seem to like her, especially since she tutored Mike in English and helped bring his grade up. She understands our situation and doesn't push for more than I'm ready to give. Sarah called me from a new number yesterday. She said she's been sober for 2 weeks and attending AA meetings. She wanted to know if I would consider giving her another chance. I hung up without responding and blocked the number. Some betrayals you can't come back from. The kids still struggle with what happened, but we're healing. Jenny told me last week that she's proud of how I handled everything, staying strong for them while not letting Sarah manipulate her way back into our lives. Mike asked if he could change his last name to mine. He had Sarah's, once he turns 18. Life isn't perfect, but we're moving forward. Sarah made her choices and now she has to live with them. I have no regrets about how I handled things. Sometimes the hardest part of being a parent is showing your kids that it's okay to cut toxic people out of your life, even if that person is their mother. We're building a new normal, and for the first time in months, I'm actually excited about the future.